The fifth misconception is that Anglicanism is the middle way, the via media, between Catholicism and Protestantism. Now, Anglicanism often looks like it's the middle ground between Catholicism and Protestantism because many Anglican churches have high church elements, such as ministers who wear vestments. However, when we're speaking of Anglicanism's theology as defined by its documents, it's actually not that way at all. The initial Protestant Reformation was made up of 4 different groups: the Anglicans, the Reformed, the Lutheran, and the Anabaptists. Now, the Anabaptists were the black sheep of the Reformation, and none of the other Protestant traditions were influenced by it. Anglicanism, however, was greatly influenced by both Lutheranism and the Reformed traditions, and their leaders helped shape Anglican theology and liturgy during the Reformation era. On the Lutheran side, Archbishop Thomas Cranmer, who authored the 39 Articles as well as the Book of Common Prayer, was in correspondence with Philip Melanchthon, who was a close associate of Martin Luther. A copy of the Augsburg Confession was found among his papers after his death, showing that he was familiar with them and likely consulted them. Anglican historians generally point out that the doctrines of justification by faith, sola fide, as well as the rejection of purgatory were all examples of early Lutheran influence, and could be seen in the original 10 Articles of Faith, which were a predecessor to the 39 Articles, as well as Cranmer's Bishop's Book. Gerald Bray, who wrote the book Anglicanism, a Reformed Catholic Tradition, says that Anglicanism was more heavily influenced by Lutheranism early on, but that Lutheran influence on the Church of England rapidly declined after 1547. From that time on, Anglicanism became more shaped by the Reformed tradition. Now, as for its Reformed influence, Heinrich Bullinger, who was the successor to Zwingli and Zurich, also maintained correspondence with Thomas Cranmer. And Bray says that he exercised considerable influence over the English. The German reformer Martin Bucer was a friend of John Calvin and even mentored Calvin when he stayed with him for 3 years in Strasbourg. Now, Bucer finished off his career in England at the invitation of Archbishop Thomas Cranmer. Bucer was made the Professor of Divinity at the University of Cambridge, and he helped Cranmer revise the first edition of the Book of Common Prayer. Another connection to Bucer was Peter Martyr, who taught Old Testament under Bucer in Strasbourg and was part of the Reformed tradition, finishing his career in the Reformed Zurich. But before that, Martyr was invited by Cranmer to England to be the Professor of Theology at Oxford. He helped influence the Eucharistic service of the Book of Common Prayer. So we see that Cranmer had such respect for the Reformed tradition that he invited 2 prominent Reformed theologians to England and installed them into prestigious positions of teaching theology at Cambridge and Oxford. He also got their input for the revision of the Book of Common Prayer. Now, Bray concludes, the Church's official doctrine and classical liturgy remain more closely allied with Geneva than with either Wittenberg or Rome. Now, that's Bray saying that Anglicanism's theology, as reflected in its confessional and liturgical documents, are influenced by the Reformed tradition the most out of all. So it's not true that Anglicanism is a middle ground between Protestant and Roman Catholic. Instead, it's entirely Protestant in its theology, and instead it's an amalgamation or a middle ground between Lutheran and Reformed theology. To hear the remaining 4 objections, watch my video, 5 Things People Get Wrong About Anglicanism, on YouTube. If you'd like to learn more about Anglicanism, I highly recommend the book Anglicanism, a Reformed Catholic Tradition by Gerald Bray. You can get that book today on Kindle or paperback, the link will be in the video description. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please click like to help expand the video's reach.